Hello everyone, welcome back to another project analysis video. In this episode, we are looking at Lucerne Grand, an upcoming mixed-use development beside Lakeside MRT. On paper, it has many of the ingredients buyers usually look for. Direct MRT access, shops within the development, Jurong Lake Garden nearby, a recognized developer, and the wider Jurong transformation story. But projects with the most obvious strengths often come with the most obvious premiums. And that creates an important question for Lucerne Grand. How many buyers can realistically support the price it may command? Consider a family that has lived in Jurong for 15 years. Their children, parents, workplaces and routines are all centered in the west. Lucerne Grand may feel like a natural upgrade until a family unit approaches 2 million. At that point, the issue is no longer whether they like the project. It's how much equity they must commit, how much they need to borrow, and whether the move still leaves them financially comfortable. Jurong has a large established population and a significant transformation story, but visible demand and financially capable demand are not the same thing. In part 1, we will examine what Lakeside already offers, where Lucerne Grand's buyer may come from, and whether surrounding HDB and condo owners can realistically bridge the financial gap. Then in part 2, we will examine the other side of the equation, how much competition Lucerne Grand may face when those owners eventually want to sell. For years, Jurong has been marketed as Singapore's second central business district. Jurong Innovation District is planned as Singapore's largest mixed-use business district outside the central area, combining offices, homes, public spaces, transport, amenities and recreation. It is also expected to support around 95,000 jobs when fully developed across advanced manufacturing, innovation and research. These plans build on an already established western region with mature towns, employment centres, schools, healthcare and retail amenities. It is a compelling headline, but families do not purchase homes because a planning slogan sounds impressive. They buy when a location makes their daily lives easier. Lucerne Grand does not need Jurong to become another downtown core. It benefits when households with existing ties to the west have more reasons to work, live, and upgrade within the region. However, not every new job or infrastructure project will translate directly into demand for Lakeside. Some workers may remain where they already live. Others may choose Jurong East, Tengah, Bukit Batok or Clementi. Many may simply commute. The transformation may widen demand, but Lucerne Grand's stronger advantage are already usable today. Jurong Lake Gardens is already established. Lakeside Gardens spans 60 hectares and focuses on nature, play and community, while the redeveloped Chinese and Japanese gardens reopened in September 2024. Large established green spaces are difficult to replicate. Their scarcity may strengthen buyer appeal over time, although eventual performance will still depend on entry price and competing supply. Lakeside MRT is also already operating on the east-west line. Residents are not depending on a proposed station or an uncertain alignment. The convenience exists from the day of occupation and remains relevant to future resale buyers. The Jurong Region line is being delivered in stages, with the latest LTA information showing 2028 for the initial stages, while the Cross Island Line Phase 2 will eventually extend towards Jurong Lake District. These transport improvements should strengthen the wider western network, but Lucerne Grand will only have direct access to Lakeside MRT. The other lines should not therefore be treated as an additional reinforcement, not as though several new stations are arriving directly beside this project. Lucerne Grand already has a credible foundation through the MRT, gardens and established western population. The future transformation can strengthen that foundation, but buyers should be careful about paying today as though all future spillover is already guaranteed. Picture the same family spending a Saturday in two different parts of Jurong. In Jurong East, they may move between the malls, dining options and major transport interchange. At Lakeside, the day may involve bringing the children to Jurong Lake Gardens, cycling by the water, using the playgrounds and spending more time outdoors. Jurong East is the stronger commercial and transport hub, while Lakeside offers a more residential and recreational environment. Lucerne Grand combines that quieter setting with direct MRT access and commercial space below the development. Families can reach Jurong East easily without living inside its busiest zones. The shops below Lucerne Grand may also address part of the Lakeside's convenience or inconvenience gap without changing the wider neighborhood into another commercial center. The eventual value of this commercial component will depend on the tenant mix. A supermarket, useful food options, and practical services would support daily living far more than the retail that residents rarely use. This distinction between Jurong East and Lakeside also affects pricing. A premium accepted beside Jurong East MRT should not automatically transfer to Lakeside simply because both sit within the wider Jurong story. A Jurong East buyer may pay for immediate access to malls, interchange connectivity, and commercial activity. A Lakeside buyer may pay for MRT convenience, recreation, greenery, and a more residential atmosphere. Therefore, the project that we are discussing today needs to be assessed according to the experience it actually provides. At resale, owners may achieve stronger results by selling the complete Lakeside experience rather than relying only on the Jurong Innovation District label. The MRT, gardens, established community, and daily convenience are benefits future buyers can experience during a viewing. Lucerne Grand's most dependent demand is likely to come from households already connected to the West. The first group is nearby HDB upgraders who want to enter private housing without leaving familiar schools, workplaces, and family networks. This group provides scale, but affordability will be the main constraint. The second group is existing Lakeside and Jurong condo owners. They may have more equity, but Lucerne Grand must provide a genuine improvement in lease, layout, convenience, or living environment. The third group is buyers from the wider West. They may already have family or employment ties to the region, but they will compare Lucerne Grand against projects closer to their existing routines. Investors and buyers from outside the West can widen the pool, although they are likely to be more selective about yield, capital appreciation, pricing, and alternative locations. The buyer pool is real, but these groups do not enter from the same financial position. To understand how broad the demand may be, we begin with the largest visible group, HDB upgraders. The surrounding HDB population gives Lucerne Grand obvious upgrader base, but the number of flats in Jurong tell us very little until we compare what those owners may receive from selling their homes against what a family unit at Lucerne Grand could cost. Looking at the current resale data based on the median prices from Q1 2026, we see that the median 4-room flat is approximately 548,900 in Jurong East and 535,500 in Jurong West. For 5 rooms, the median prices rises to 715,500 for the 5 rooms in Jurong East and 635,000 in Jurong West. Executive flats in Jurong West are around 800,000. Some of the newer HDB transactions are, as we reviewed, range from approximately 565,000 to 854,000. These are meaningful property values, but the selling price is not the same as the amount available for the next purchase. Any outstanding mortgage must first be settled. There will also be selling expenses, stamp duty, legal fees, possible rental costs, and other timeline considerations. So let us compare these against an illustrative Lucerne Grand price. The developer, CDL, acquired the site at 1132 per square foot per plot ratio. For this calculation, I will use 2003 per square foot as a conservative working assumption. This is not the official launch price and should not be treated as a prediction of the eventual average. The actual price will depend on the final unit mix, construction cost, and the developer's positioning. At 2,300 per square foot, an 850 square feet 3-bedroom will cost approximately 2 million. A 950 square feet will cost approximately 2.2 million. And a 1050 square feet will cost approximately 2.4 million. The official floor areas have not been released, so these are illustrative family home sizes rather than predictions of Lucerne Grand's actual layouts. Assuming the buyer qualifies for a 75% loan, the 25% down payment will be approximately 500,000 for a 850 square feet, 550,000 for a 950 square feet, and about 600,000 for 1050 square feet. And that's before buyer's stamp duty, legal fees, renovation, and other moving costs. Now, place those figures beside the HDB medians. Even if a 4-room flat is fully paid, its selling price only covers most of the down payment and purchase expenses for a family unit at Lucerne Grand. 5-room and executive flat owners start from a stronger position, but any outstanding mortgages and the need to preserve a financial buffer can still leave a substantial gap. Let's take an example of a 5-room flat in Jurong East which sold at a median price of 715,000. Assuming the owners have a 200,000 outstanding loan and must refund around 200,000 of CPF principal and accrued interest, they will receive approximately 315,000 in gross cash proceeds, with another 200,000 returned to CPF and potentially available for the next purchase. That gives them about 515,000 in combined cash and CPF housing funds before selling expenses. For a 2 million Lucerne Grand unit, the 25% down payment would be 500,000 alone. On paper, the funds may appear sufficient, but buyer stamp duty, legal fees, renovation and selling expenses would still require a further top-up. The household must also qualify for a 1.5 million loan and remain comfortable within the monthly repayment. So even for a 5-room owner selling near the Jurong East median, the upgrade is likely to require additional savings, sufficient income, and a willingness to commit a substantial portion of the household housing equity. The most realistic upgraders are therefore likely to own a substantially paid off or higher value flat, hold additional cash or CPF savings, and have enough income to support the private property loan. Lucerne Grand may also attract HDB upgraders from Clementi, Bukit Batok, and other nearby towns. Some of these households may benefit from the stronger resale values. However, they also have less reason to choose Lakeside automatically. A Clementi household may compare Lucerne Grand against Clementi, Beauty World, or Queenstown. A Bukit Batok household may also consider Tengah, Hillview, or other western projects. These buyers widen the market, but Lucerne Grand must compete more directly for them. For HDB owners, the hurdle is therefore not simply whether they like the project. It is whether they are prepared and financially able to commit a large portion of their accumulated housing equity and possibly additional savings to make the move. Existing lakeside condo owners start from a different financial position. Across developments such as Lake Point, the Lakeshore, Caspian, the Lakefront Residences, and Lake Grande, recent transaction prices broadly range from around 1.3 million to 2.8 million. Their motivation depends partly on the age of their current development. Owners of older projects may view Lucerne Grand as an opportunity to refresh their lease and living environment without leaving lakeside. If their mortgage is low and they have accumulated equity over many years, the move may be more manageable than it is for a typical HDB upgrader, but they may be exchanging larger internal spaces for a newer and potentially more compact home. Owners of Caspian, the Lakefront Residences, and Lake Grande may need a different reason to move. Their developments are relatively newer, so Lucerne Grand must offer a meaningful improvement in layout, commercial convenience, or suitability for the next stage of family life. Let us take a recent Lake Point condominium transaction as an example. The unit sold for 1.738 million after being purchased around 20 years ago for 520,000. Assuming an outstanding loan of 200,000, combined CPF refund of 400,000, the owners will have about 1.538 million in combined cash and CPF housing funds before selling expenses. This gives long-time owners more flexibility than a typical HDB upgrader. However, they may also be older and face a shorter maximum loan tenor, resulting in highly monthly repayment. Their decision may therefore depend less on whether they have enough equity and more on whether the financing and possible reduction in space remain worthwhile. For a buyer today looking at own stay, they will probably ask whether the family can live here comfortably for the next 10 or 15 years. While an investor will have a different mindset. Will the expected rental yield or capital appreciation justify the price they are paying today? Lucerne Grand may appeal to both groups, but its proposition is not the same for each. A buyer looking for own stay can accept a higher price because the home also provides lifestyle and long-term use value. An investor will focus more heavily on capital appreciation, rental yield, holding costs, and alternative uses for the same capital. Lucerne Grand will enter a market where investors already have choices. Some may have committed to projects such as Tengah Garden Residences, others may prefer lower entry options such as Nara Residences or The Sand, even though these projects are not as close to an MRT station. This project must therefore justify the additional amount paid for the convenience that it provides. Lake Grande gives us a useful reference for rental demand in Lakeside, with average rental yield between 3 to 4%. However, it's important to note that many owners entered at a significant lower price during the purchase in 2016 and 2017 during their launch period. Some 2-bedrooms were purchased at around 800,000, 3-bedroom units were around 1.2 million, and some 4-bedroom homes entered at approximately 1.6 million during the 2016 and 2017 period. Those buyers entered during a slower market at a much lower quantum. So as rents increase over time, the lower purchase price helped support the yields visible today. On the other hand, Lucerne Grand is likely to enter at a significantly higher price level. So let us just take an approximation of $6 to $6.50 for a 1,000 square foot unit. Annual rent will be approximately $72,000 to $78,000. Against a purchase price of about $2.3 million, that represents a gross yield of around 3.1% to 3.4% before maintenance fees, property tax, vacancies, and other costs. While Lake Grande demonstrates that tenants are willing to rent in Lakeside, it's important to note that the rental yield for Lucerne Grand may not be as good. Based on what we have, buyers that are looking for own stay in Lucerne Grand will have a stronger value proposition as compared to those that are looking for investment perspective. Its main support, therefore, will come from households looking to upgrade, refresh their lease, or remain within the West, with investors adding a secondary layer of demand. Of course, the final pricing and unit mix will determine whether investor demand broadens. Compact functional units and manageable quantums may help, but investors will remain sensitive to yield and alternative uses for the same capital. So the question is, can Jurong and Lakeside support Lucerne Grand's price? I believe the demand foundation is credible. Lakeside MRT and Jurong Lake Gardens are already in place. The West has an established population, while future transport and employment growth can strengthen the region further. But Lucerne Grand will not draw from unlimited buyer pool. While HDB upgraders appears to be able to provide the skill, we can see that most of them will find it difficult to actually take on the pricing for Lucerne Grand, especially when they have to commit a substantial portion of their housing equity, add additional cash and CPF saving, and take on bigger loan. Existing condo owners may have more equity, but the top-up must also provide a meaningful improvement in lease, convenience, layout or suitability for the next stage of family life, because there will be compromises. For investors, it will depend on the pricing that they enter at and whether the layouts are functional enough for them to pay the premium for. Lucerne Grand's stronger support is therefore likely to come from home ownership, from Western households and existing private owners looking for a newer replacement home. The final launch price will determine whether it can attract several buyer groups or become dependent on a narrower pool of well-capitalized households. And affordability is only one side of the resale equation. Future buyers may also compare Lucerne Grand against homes in Lakeside, Tengah, Bukit Batok, Clementi, and elsewhere. This is what we will examine in part 2. If you are considering Lucerne Grand as an HDB upgrader or a replacement home, calculate the full financial gap before deciding whether the move works. You can reach me through WhatsApp in the description below, and I'll help you compare Lucerne Grand against the alternatives available at the same quantum. Subscribe for part 2, where we examine the competition and unit selection decisions that may shape its eventual resale outcome. Bye!